Welcome to the Topic of the Month with Kim Wardlow, an AINC original podcast. It's not easy being blind or going through vision loss, but we'll help you navigate these waters. Press on. Push forward. You've got this.
Hello and welcome to the Topic of the Month. This month we're discussing disability awareness and education. I'm Kim Wardlow, your host, and also the executive director at the Audio Information Network of Colorado. So last week we spoke with Penn Street. She will be joining us again today. Just a reminder to everyone, Colorado Gives Day is coming up December 6th, but you can schedule your donation ahead of time on their website, and then you don't have to worry about remembering that date. You can get that all taken care of ahead of time. Also, we want to always mention Aftersight that Penn hosts, as well as Blindsight that is hosted by Bill Lundgren. And he is talking to folks about various aspects of mental health. And so both of those, I think you will find interesting. So we always want to mention those. So this week, we're shifting. Penn, as I said, is joining me again as our guest. And last week we kind of talked about, as a person who has lost vision or maybe lost hearing, being able to talk about your disability. And this week we're kind of flipping that around and saying, I'm the person who doesn't have the disability, and I'm curious, but how do I talk to somebody who have a disability, and what's appropriate? I know last week you mentioned somebody came up and asked you in the coffee shop if you're sort of blind, and it kind of caught you off guard.
Yeah.
So, and I know these things happen with people, and sometimes it's just a question. Sometimes it's grabbing you by the arm and saying, "Oh, I'll help you across the street," when you were actually trying to cross the other way, or something like that.
Exactly.
So looking at it from the perspective of, I'm curious. I can see this person has a disability. They have a guide dog. They have a white cane. But what are those boundaries? How do I start a conversation? And are there times when it's really just not appropriate to start a conversation?
Yeah. Well, first of all, thanks for having me, Kim. This is a huge topic, and like Kim mentioned, I did mention the sort of blind because I didn't know what sort of blind meant because I ran the whole thing together. We get asked some crazy questions. But I always tell people, remember the golden rule: treat others as you'd want them to treat you. And you wouldn't go up to somebody who wasn't blind on the corner and grab them. You wouldn't go up to a stranger standing on the corner who had their pet dog with them and just start petting it without asking. So it's basically, we just want you to treat us the way you would treat anybody else. And it's okay to ask questions, but it's okay if we don't want to answer them. And just like everybody else, especially somebody who is blind, visually impaired, we may not know you're there. And so if you, like Kim said, if you just grab our arm when we're standing on the street corner, that is really, really scary. Imagine you in that situation if you were standing there and a stranger grabbed you. Because I don't know if you're grabbing me because you're trying to save me from a bear or a mugger, or are you grabbing me because you are the mugger? Like, I don't know that. And
right.
So use your voice, and there are, like with me, I also have a hearing impairment, but with my hearing aids, I can probably hear you approaching, but don't take it for granted. Just say, "Hey, how's it going? It's a beautiful day," just like you would anybody else. You can ask, especially if I'm standing on the corner especially if it's a crazy intersection, you can say, do you need any assistance? And I might say yes, and I might say no. If I say yes, I'm going to tell you what assistance that is. Don't you just take it for granted and grab my arm or my hand. I will tell you what assistance I need. So again, it's okay to talk to us. Blindness is not contagious. And really it is, just treat us the way you would treat anybody else, and definitely treat us the way you would want to be treated.
So really it's okay to ask if a person needs assistance, but don't just make assumptions.
Exactly.
And start to assist.
And it's okay if somebody asks you, like if you ask them, do you need assistance? And they start, they ask you something to do something for them that you're not comfortable with. Like maybe you're not comfortable, giving somebody sighted guide across a scary intersection. It's okay that you say, I would really like to help, but I don't feel comfortable doing that. So it goes both ways. We're all humans, and we all have, our reactions and things that we're okay with or not okay with.
What about the questions that I've heard frequently too, that how did you lose your sight?
Yeah.
Have you always been blind? Kind of these personal questions. But I've been with individuals with vision loss, and you go up to pay for your coffee or your meal or something, and the clerk asks.
Yeah.
And yeah.
I think depends on the situation. It depends on the person. It depends on a lot of things. Just like Kim, if you went up to the counter and you have beautiful hair, Kim, I don't know if you guys know this, Kim Wardlow has beautiful hair. So if Kim Wardlow went up to the counter at the coffee shop and they're like, oh my gosh, you have beautiful hair. Where do you get it done? Were you born with that hair? Or is it, from the salon? It's the same situation.
I have actually been asked that.
Oh, okay. But you might, if you're in a hurry, you might be like, nope, this is me, this is my hair, but thank you. And then you leave. But you might be in a situation, you're like, oh my gosh, that's so flattering. My grandmother, like you could tell, I don't know what the story is with your hair, Kim, but then you might tell the whole story. Well, it's the same thing with me and my friends, is that sometimes it's appropriate and I have the time and I want to share, but sometimes I don't. Sometimes I am like racing to get the bus, or my, Uber or Lyft is outside, and, whatever it is. But there are times that, I'll share, thanks for asking. And I'll share my story. So it really depends, but it definitely gets old. One of the things that people ask, and this happens regardless of if it's a visibility that people can see, not necessarily an invisible disability, is I get this a lot, and I have other friends that have told me they get this a lot, is they ask if they can pray for me for healing, and that my sight would be restored. And that one is a hard one, because one, I love my life. And I think that, regardless of your religion or your belief, or you don't have one, that's a really personal question. And it's an insult. I take it almost as an insult, because I'm like, God made me this way. I'm proud of the way I am. I don't need to be fixed, and in that situation, I usually say something similar to that. Like, oh no, I love my life. I don't want it to change. But if you would really like to pray for somebody, pray for my friend who has cancer, or pray for, somebody who's really struggling with addiction. Like I will give them an alternative to do. But But that to me is an insult of people taking it for granted that there's something wrong with me that needs to be fixed.
Right. And I think it's the difference, part of the difference anyway, in those situations is if somebody asks me, would I share what my hair color, what color I'm using or whatever, that's not a negative. There's not a negative connotation to it. That's a positive thing.
Yeah.
That person likes the color of my hair. Yeah. And, it is actually just Danish genes. So I don't really have any great tips for them. I can tell them where I get it cut.
Yeah.
But there's not anything, the person asking isn't coming across as they think there's something wrong with me.
Right.
Or wrong with my hair color. And I think in the case, like what you're talking about, where somebody's asking you to pray for you, or even depending how it's asked, how you've lost your vision, or, those types of more personal questions.
Yeah.
I think it is it can be coming from that place of the negative stigma around vision loss. And I think that makes a difference too. Or you mentioned in the past, I think even last week you mentioned sometimes it's different if a child asks you because they're truly just asking because they're curious and wanting to understand, not because they think something's wrong with you.
Right. Exactly. But if somebody did come up to you, Kim, and was like, that color is not natural, or, if they said,
I know
something,
you don't have to argue with somebody about it.
Yeah,
right?
exactly. But I do think that, I know with myself, I try not to get angry, the other thing is, that we get quite a bit is, oh, you just need stronger glasses. Or, I have a friend and she went to this doctor or she had this surgery, and it just fixed her right up, or she took this herb or whatever it is.
I was going to say, or this tea or this vitamin.
Yeah, exactly. And it's really, you just kind of shake your head and say, oh, thank you for that information, because they really do think that they're being kind or that they're being helpful. Mm-hmm. I think most people are not going to be malicious about it. And so I have to remind myself of that, even though sometimes it does feel that way.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, it just feels very personal when it's, I don't know.
Yeah.
Just a very personal.
Yeah. But
personal types of questions to be asked.
I mean, I meet people sometimes that I'm just fascinated. Like I use my nose a lot. Like I have the nose of a bloodhound. So if I smell somebody and it's like I love vanilla and almond, the different, I'll say, oh my gosh, that smells amazing. What is it? And they usually laugh, and sometimes I'll be like, oh, it's my deodorant or something. But it's kind of like, it's an icebreaker. You are complimenting. It's okay to compliment, or even, like that guy at the coffee house. I think he was trying to compliment me.
Right, because he talked about how they were impressed with how you could move around.
Yeah.
And it almost didn't seem like you had vision loss.
Yes, exactly.
But you had the white cane, so they knew you did.
Yes. Yeah. And so I think even when it doesn't sound, so just when you do approach somebody, it's okay to ask questions. Like it's okay. I mean, that's how we learn, and that's how we create community around us, is by being intuitive and being in question what's going on. But just, maybe take a deep breath and run the sentence through your head before it comes out your mouth, if you can, to make sure that the question is given with respect and kindness, and not coming off kind of short and belittling.
Well, or maybe even having the first question B, may I ask you a question about your vision
that's
loss?
good. Or, hi, my name is Joe. What's your name? Ask me something besides,
Right.
or, oh, do you come to this coffee house often? Even though that's kind of a line, but ask me something that doesn't have to do with my disability.
Right.
Don't have that be like your first question.
Well, and I think it does make a difference if it's somebody that you have some sort of relationship with, whether it's somebody you work with or you are part of the same club or you see each other, at a certain place frequently, or, it might be the clerk at the store because you see that person, you're interacting with that person all the time.
Yeah.
And so I think that can make a difference too. If it's somebody that you've interacted with in the past, even if it's not, a strong friendship, but there's some basis, for at least an acquaintance type of relationship with that person.
Yeah.
Then if you ask, well, I've been curious, about when you come in and I see you with your guide dog and I've been curious, do you mind if I ask how it works having a guide dog?
Yeah.
How does your guide dog know where to go?
Exactly. He has a GPS, embedded in his. But no, that's a really good point. I just found out recently, actually over the weekend, I'm in Lions Club International, and I've been president and district governor and in these leadership roles. I just found out this past weekend that most Lions do not think that I'm actually visually impaired.
Really?
Because I don't act blind. And I do all these things that blind people aren't supposed to do or don't do. And I was in shock.
That's amazing. You just haven't run into enough walls.
I know. It's like, what do you need me to do? And I've heard that from other people, especially people with low vision, is that people say, yeah, people ask me tell me all the time that I don't act or look like a blind person. So again, that's not necessarily a compliment. So when you say those kinds of things, think about how you're saying it.
Because you're basically saying, wow, if you're really blind, you'd be pretty incompetent.
Exactly.
You don't seem that way.
Exactly.
All blind people are incompetent.
I know. Or what do blind people look like? Do they look like Stevie Wonder? Is he the poster child? That when you Google what do blind people look like, does Stevie Wonder come up? I don't know. I don't know what. I don't even know what. And when I ask them, well, what does that mean? They really stumble because I either they're too embarrassed to tell me what they think that means, or they don't actually know. I don't know.
Right. Well, that's just kind of an interesting thing that being very successfully blind, it's like, well, how dare you be so successful?
I know.
Living your life without vision. It's just, that's interesting. It's kind of it's just an odd thing. But I can see where it would make people kind of stop to be asked, well, what do you mean by that?
Yeah.
Because I think you'd have to realize that you're running all sorts of negative stereotypes through your head that aren't necessarily true. And it's good that they're not true.
Exactly. Or when you ask a blind person, and I've had this happen, is, do you want to feel my face so you know what I look like? That is,
right.
Would you ask a sighted, a stranger that? No, you would not ask a stranger that.
No.
And I don't need to know what you look like because you're a stranger. And judging by how you're saying and what you're saying, I probably don't want to be friends with you.
I want to know you.
Exactly. That is not something that you ask. It's like
Right.
But again, if you're the type of person that's normally how you talk, then that might be okay in some circles, but definitely not mine.
Yeah. Oh, wow. I've heard that, but I didn't even think about that one.
Yeah. That's pretty out there.
Yeah. Well, since we've had to social distance and things for the last couple of years, that might have decreased in being asked that particular one.
That's true.
I don't know. Maybe not.
That might have been a good thing that came out of COVID, right?
So one of the silver linings. Do you have a particular pet peeve of when you're dealing with somebody does not have a disability and them asking you things or?
Oh man, I have a whole list. No, I'm kidding. I think my biggest pet peeve is when it's that somebody has that perception. They lump everybody with a disability, or they lump everybody who's blind or visually impaired into one bucket. That all blind and visually impaired people are supposed to be this way, or people who are deaf and hard of hearing are supposed to be this way, or every person that's blind and deaf and hard of hearing, are supposed to be like Helen Keller, that's probably my biggest pet peeve, because I do not, and I can't judge somebody until I talk to them and get to know them. And it's almost a blessing to me. That's almost a gift to me, because I can't look across the room and look at what you're wearing, or the color of your skin, or how you wear your hair, or those kinds of things, and make a judgment about you. Like, I can't. So I don't. And so I wish that more sighted people had that, because I don't like that when people come up to me, oh, you don't act like a blind person, or they want to pray for me, or all those things we just discussed. It's like, get to know me before you judge me, because I'm not going to be exactly like the next blind person you meet, or the deaf or hard of hearing person. It's that preconception of when people see me, that they just automatically, either negatively or even positively, because it can go the opposite direction of, oh, Penn, you're my hero. I wish I could be more like you because you're so brave, and all this. And they use that tone of voice too. That is almost just as annoying as, oh, it's not safe for you to be out here. I should call you, get you a ride, or I should take you home, or whatever. It's, you don't, if you don't know me, don't judge me. And especially if you're not going to take the time to get to know me, then definitely don't judge me. But that's true with everybody. Like, we should all be more open to getting to know somebody before we make a decision about them.
Right. I was just thinking, like, that can apply in so many situations, not just with a disability.
Exactly.
It can apply if somebody's from a different country, or a different part of the U.S. even, or
absolutely
has, a certain occupation, or, all kinds of things. I think as human beings, we tend to try to put people in categories and label people and make everybody in that category all the same. And it's just not true.
Exactly. My husband is a professional photographer, and we had a gallery studio, and we were at the top of this little mall, and it was a wide open mall. It was beautiful. And there was this guy that started coming in, and he came in every day right after lunch. And he was just this really amazing human being. And we would just sit and have these incredible conversations about philosophy and science and medicine and all this stuff. And I just really enjoyed, and I actually look forward to him coming up. And I thought he was like one of the other shop owners, or he worked at one of the other shops, and that just happened to be his break. And so we were just having this wonderful, this went on for week after weeks after weeks. Well, then one day, just right after he left, one of the other shop owners, who I did know, comes running in and go, I'm just going to call him Joe. "Oh my gosh, was Joe in here?" And I said, "Yeah, Joe, he just left," because there were several different ways you could get out of the mall. And she was like, "Oh my
Mm-hmm.
God, are you okay?" And I'm like, "Yeah, I'm fine. What are you talking about?" And she said, "Oh, he's such a horrible human being, and none of us like him. And he comes in and he's so inappropriate to women. And I was just like, I don't think you're talking about same person."
Talking about the same
And
person.
and she goes, "And you probably can't see, but his face is just mutilated. He looks like a monster." And I was like, we can't be talking about the same person, because in my head, because every time Joe came in, he was so kind and gentle that in my head, he had like this angelic face, right?
Right.
And so what was and I did not find this out until later. Joe never came back. And it was because the shop owners told him he was not allowed to come up and talk to me anymore, because they didn't trust him with me because I'm a blind person. I ran into his sister years later, and he had passed away. He had cancer that was in his nasal passage and his tear ducts. And so it just, ate his face away like cancer does.
Right.
But I couldn't see him. He approached me with kindness and respect. So therefore, that's what I reciprocated. And his sister said that his friendship with me, because he died not too long after the last time I saw him, that I was the only one in town that treated him like a normal human being, and that I looked forward to him coming in, and that I actually listened to him, because we would pick up our conversations where they were left off the day before. And it meant so much to him to finally have a friend after he had this cancer. And she said he could be pretty rough verbally to people, but it was because he knew that he would walk into a store and everybody would like pull back from him and well, then he just got this attitude like, well, I'm going to be inappropriate because you're being inappropriate, where it was the opposite with me, because he felt he could just be himself with me. And I always remember that story, because I'm like, oh, I don't know what people look like. So I don't judge them. But I do judge you on what you say and how you say it. And so just, remember that, rather, whatever you look like, what comes out of your mouth and how you say it, that's good. Somebody you can't see is going to judge you on that.
Right. And was it really the place of the other store owners to tell him he couldn't see
exactly.
you? Like, they could say, we don't want you to come into our business, but you had such a different experience. Was that?
Yeah.
I don't know. That kind of breaks my heart, because it was so important to him to have somebody who he could talk to.
Yeah. And I mean, I didn't know why he didn't continue to come back for a long time, and really didn't know the whole story until I met his sister after he had passed away. And it was,
This has been a really great discussion. And you brought up some things that I had not even thought about, or I had not, obviously not experienced myself, but not experienced when I was with somebody who had a disability. So I think that's great awareness for those of us who don't have a disability, and what is appropriate and not appropriate, and just thinking about how you would feel if somebody was coming up asking you whatever you're contemplating asking, and think about, is there any relationship with this person that you would just be coming up and asking them a question.
Remember that golden rule.
Yes.
We all learned it in elementary school. We should revisit it as adults.
Right. That's true. I think we have to remind ourselves of it constantly.
Yeah.
Well, thanks for joining me again this week, Penn. As always, I encourage folks to listen to Penn's podcast, After Sight. And she is talking to individuals with vision loss and both the amazing and day-to-day things that they are doing after losing vision. And it's always interesting to listen to those interviews. Next week, we will be talking about learning more about your disability and how you can educate yourself. We've talked a lot about educating other folks, but sometimes that first step is actually educating yourself. So I hope that you will be listening to the next week's podcast as well. Don't forget also to listen to Blindsight and schedule that Colorado Gives Day donation too. Those are available to schedule now. If you have any questions for us or comments for us, we always love to hear those. And you can either email us at ainc@aincolorado.org or call us 303-786-7777. But we always are happy to get your comments, or if you have questions, we'd like to answer those for you. So thanks for tuning in.
Thanks, Kim.